Debt-Free TV, in association with getoutofdebtfree.org.
Introducing the True World Order, a system that is non-hierarchical, non-ideological and planetary. This is a unique experience for the human being. We are now creating our own system of organisation in harmony with the planet based on natural law. This series of videos will examine our current situation and offer a path for everyone to rapidly transition to a new way of thinking and a new way of life. Let us first take a look at some of the aspects of being human. We all have an inner and outer experience of the world. The inner world of thoughts, dreams and ideas, and the outer, which is the reality we all share. But how much of this shared reality is based in the physical, and how much is based purely on our perception of the world? If an alien being were to come down to the planet, it would see the land, trees, deserts, oceans, and people. It would have no concept of the transient labels we attach to things like countries, governments, or religious establishments. That is because these things are fictional and based on our relationship to each other at a point in time. Open your eyes and look around you. Look at the physical things in your environment. You will see that many of the things you see started as a thought that someone had. This shows you that our thoughts are very powerful and govern the creations we bring into the world. Consider what happens when the populace watches television broadcasting messages of fear or war. What is the reality we are creating? If we change our perceptions, then it stands to reason that the world will change also. So monitor your inputs and your outputs so that you can experience and share more of the positive aspects of transition, and before long we can change our point of focus towards the reality we want to have on this planet, sharing an experience at the pinnacle of our individual and collective missions. Beauty for the benefit of all. We talked about how we have an inner and outer world. The inner world of the mind has no boundary and is possible of creating or conceiving virtually anything. So how do we know if the thoughts we are creating and the things we are manifesting are in line with the goals and dreams of those who share the outer world? From our human experience, there are certain things that we need to survive on the planet. For example, food, shelter, and water. Let's call these primal needs. As culture and civilization has developed over time, we have become accustomed to things such as electricity, transport, and technology. Let's call these civilized needs. And finally, we have our own inner world of concepts and ideas, some of which are shared collectively, such as money and ideas of governance. Let's call these transcendent needs. If our ideas and intentions tally with the needs of all other human beings, then we know we are connecting to the whole. Essentially, any ideas can be placed into these three spheres. We have drawn from this to produce 12 spheres of human endeavour that enable us to map the co-creation process in more detail. You can see how all ideas can contribute to more than one endeavour, but all fall back into the three basic categories. Now we can begin to quantify our connections more easily. Plus, we have positioned our idea in relation to its influence on the planet. We have asked ourselves the questions: how do I see the world around me? What is my dream? And how can I contribute from a heart-centered space?
I shall up. Thumb up. Hi. Hello, how's it going? We'll start again, shall we? Hello, how's it going? Good. Okay, brilliant. So, yeah, that was a little video I've put together about this concept I've been working on since about 2007, actually, when I first started to think about, I don't know why, I just started to think about these spheres of endeavour, and I sort of was looking around there, and I sort of drew these 12 kind of things after much, I don't know, it was a kind of weird time in 2007. Anyone else had a weird time in 2007? Lots of energies flying around, I thought, anyway. So that's when I came up with this kind of idea to, you know, map what it is from a human perspective that we all kind of share, because there seems to be a lot of, you know, arguing and things like that, and it's quite clear there's some things that we don't want in the world, but then there's some things that we do want, and we kind of, you know, we've got this kind of agreement upon this concept of truth. So it's a bit of a bold statement, isn't it? The true world order, yeah? It's a bit of a bold statement, I think, yeah, because, you know, who am I to say what the truth is, yeah? The truth is a very interesting concept, isn't it? It's, where does the truth, you can't point to it exactly, the truth, but we kind of get a sense that it's there. And actually a lot of this stuff, you know, coming together and talking and exchanging ideas, it's all to get down to a point of what is the truth, whether it's a truth about something or, you know, the ultimate truth about divine purpose, whatever you think. But, you know, the truth is out there. And why can I be so bold? And I've been thinking about that. Is there a truth or isn't there a truth? Well, I came to the conclusion that there has to be a truth, because you know, if you said that the truth does not exist, then that would become the truth, right? So that's kind of a strange oxymoron in the brain there, and I was like pondering that one over for a while. And then I thought, no, that means that the truth must exist, even if it is the truth that does not exist, because then that would be the truth. So the truth exists. So that's a good start, okay? That's a good start. If we can all agree on one thing here today, the truth exists, that means we've got a point where we can, you know, start to build something, because we need to have a point of agreement. So, and the other thing I was looking at, well, this truth is kind of perfect. And well, how do you know if someone's lying to you? Yeah, how do you know if someone's actually telling you a lie?
Their eyes move in funny ways.
Their eyes move in funny ways, yeah? Okay, well, it might not be that you know that someone's telling you a lie, but you can tell if a story is truth or not, in a way, because it kind of, you know, there's certain facts that don't fit. Who here has looked into 9/11, for example? What's that then? Well, there was this day, right? Back in 2001. Yeah. It's the competitor to 7-Eleven.
They just smoke a bit more.
Yes. Well, then we had 7-7 as well, which was another shop. Yeah. So anyway, but the point is, you know, if you look into certain stories, you can see that certain people have different opinions, and that those opinions don't match up. So somewhere, in that mesh of stories or objective truth, there is an absolute truth, yeah. That's what I'm kind of getting at, is that there's kind of two types of truths. And this absolute truth is what I first wanted to get us to agree about. And it's not that we have to understand the absolute truth. In fact, I don't think we can understand the absolute truth. It's not for us to understand the absolute truth. Being human is not about knowing everything. Being human, for me, is about exchanging and expanding, and that's why I was cut off from the all-oneness consciousness or whatever, yeah? So that I can have this experience of duality, yeah? I could feel that I'm me, and I have this interior experience of the world. Does that make any sense? Does anyone else feel that way?
Yeah, but you can know it, but yeah.
Yeah, we can feel like we're connected at a larger level, but I also feel like I have my own thoughts, my own actions, you know, that I'm an entity and I can interact with this thing in the world, right? That I have a kind of free will, that everything is not predetermined, although sometimes it makes me wonder, you know. So there's coincidences. But anyway, the truth being absolute was quite important, because actually it's a different kind of truth to that relative truth, which is my personal truth, you see. the truth, absolute truth, it kind of exists out there. But whether I understand the whole thing, believe the whole thing, whether I call it God, whether I call it, some sort of religious name, or whatever, or whether I call it a spiritual sense, at the end of the day, it's something. And I can't quite put my finger on it. It's the hole in the donut. I can put my finger through the donut, but I can't quite put my finger on the donut. But it's there.
When you've eaten the donut, where is the hole?
That's it. When you've eaten the donut, where's the hole? Yeah. So I drew this little model, because I'm quite into my geometry and stuff like that. So this was like 3 spheres, and it kind of where the intersection parts. So I had this thing, the truth lacks error. I thought that's a good start, isn't it? The truth lacks error. So now, if we have the truth that lacks error, then also that means we have the objective diagnosis. So I can listen to that, and I can listen to that truth, and I can come up with my own idea about what I feel the truth is, yeah? That's my free will. That's my free will in there, yeah? And my third part, what's the purpose of all that? Because I come down and I become here, and I'm kind of born, and I become conscious of this world. And then I have these interactions with people, but to what purpose? Well, in a way, every interaction we have, for me, opens up another potential, another interaction. So we're going to be looking at how we can expand these interactions if we create this kind of system. Yeah. So actually, when we search for this truth, we can open up new pathways. So it's an empowerment thing. Yeah. It can empower us to act in different ways. And that's floating around all this. We have this kind of what I call the flower of truth. Yeah. Now that's that old ancient. Someone presents an idea. I'm presenting an idea today, and we can have some bit of debate and a bit of blah 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 coming back. Right. I'm quite open to that. And afterwards we can come to some more solid. Maybe I'm missing some things. I haven't got it all. Maybe bring some ideas together, start to network those ideas, start it all going. We come up with new ideas, new solutions. And so that's an ancient kind of idea, isn't it? This debating forums and sort of things like that. And so at the centre of all that is the idea that there must be some sort of truth. So can we all agree on that? Can we all agree on that, or do you want to have a bit of a objective debate right now? Whether there is an absolute truth, and actually we can have a relative truth, or what is the purpose of this debate? What is the purpose of talking?
Well, because your mind can't shut up.
At the back.
You can't define truth, because in a different language, say French or German, the word would have slightly different meaning.
Absolutely, there's that semantic value, isn't it? Yeah, the semantic value of truth as well, yeah. And that's a very interesting point you just raised up there, because I was thinking about that the other day, don't we? We have words, okay, then we have symbols. Symbols are a little bit more universal, pound signs and things like that. Logos, Coca-Cola symbols, yeah. That's a symbol more than it is a word in a way. You can sort of catch that logo in your eye, And then beneath all that we have this shapes. And shapes form the physical world, like triangles, and squares and all this sort of stuff. So if we went back to the idea of, is there such a thing as a triangle? Is there such a thing as start to ask those questions? What about then, once we move away from words and look at just shape? Do we get more truthful?
It's subjective.
It's easier just to ask me to say that we need there to be a truth.
We need there to be a truth.
That doesn't actually mean that there isn't one.
But that doesn't mean there is one. Okay.
Is it?
But we need it. Yeah. Okay.
So it's there because we need it, but actually it's not because there isn't. So
Yeah.
the purposes of the exercise just assume that there is one because we need there to be one.
Okay, so for the purpose of this exercise, because life is going to carry on tomorrow, we assume, there's going to be another day where we can apply our being into that thing, yeah. So let's assume actually there is a reason then to have truth, because actually it might be quite useful tomorrow to have a truth, a new thing, a new idea, a new concept based on something else. But there is experiential truth, isn't it? Like I eat the apple and I like it. I like apples. So do you want an apple? Yeah. I don't like apples. He says, yeah. So you get what I mean. Actually, do you like the donut? What is that? Biscuits? Do you like biscuits? Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. I don't like biscuits. I'm allergic to wheat. That's my truth, and that's your truth. So does that matter? Can we still find a place to agree? Otherwise, how are we going to build community? How are we going to build this common unity if we can't, find these places where we can start to agree about, is it all right to be different from somebody else? Yeah. Yeah, and then there's the truth about why is it that I'm allergic to wheat? Actually, I might not be. You know. Anyway.
I have a conjecture.
A conjecture, yes.
The truth is a system.
The truth is a system.
Yes, and applying Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
Gödel's incompleteness theorem, if we apply that.
Then it is either self-consistent or complete, and cannot be both.
It can either be consistent and complete.
Yeah, consistent or self-consistent or complete.
Yeah.
And
It can't be both. It can't be complete and what was the other one? Self-consistent. What does that mean, though?
consistency and completeness. That you have to get outside of the system into some greater system in order to.
You have to get outside the system to some great system in order to understand it, you mean?
For
Okay.
it to
Yeah.
the pieces to fit together.
That might be what happens when we die. You never know. That's the one way out of the system. But for now, whilst we are alive, let's just... Yeah, that's it.
There's always more. Of it.
There's always more of it. Actually, that's one of the things in life. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's okay then to be different, because if there's always something else to learn, that means even those people who've got completely different viewpoints to me have got something to offer me. The reason I'm going to such length about all this sort of stuff is because actually I think it's quite important that we approach the debate with a level head here, because it's quite a serious issue here. We've got planet at stake and all this business, and a lot of people seem to be in a state of judgment. And I want to kind of try and rise our consciousness here today above that, and realise actually we're all contributors in the same game in a way, and to sort of look at the ways we could sensibly move things forward. So for now we're going to have a debate. Is that all right? Yeah. And it's all right if everyone here is different. Okay. If everyone has a different view to me, because we're circling around this truth, we may not know what it is. It may be a different thing in Spanish and Italian, but at the same time, in a way, the purpose of it is it can open up these ideas so that we can find new empowerment and new pathways to action, new things we can do. I could try this then. Right, I've got this allergy to wheat, let's say, for example. Have you tried this substance? Or have you tried stopping doing this? Or have you tried this? And I might try some of those out and they might have a beneficial effect. So that's the purpose, isn't it? To improve my quality of life. Good. Right. So let's move on, because that's what we're talking about really with this true world order, is the fact it's about compass direction. Where are we actually going? Where are we going as a civilization right now? Where do we want to go? Okay. So these are interesting little questions, because quite often we don't think about that sort of stuff, do we? We kind of play a small little role. Okay? So I'm going from the human perspective, again, from the human being perspective. And when I sort of started to ask the questions, what do I perceive as being human? What do I sort of perceive? And I perceive my primal needs, what I just sort of described as primal needs. So they're the things like food. I like good quality food. I know that Dave, my mate Dave, he has survived for 30 days purely on urine.
So it says.
Yeah, I believe him. And I've met some breatharians, I'm all into that, yeah. But for me, I quite like a bit of nice quality food, yeah. So, and most people here might agree, okay. And I also quite like a good quality water, right? So for me, food and water were quite important. Now, does anyone here know about the water supply? Obviously, there's things going on in it at the moment. There's all sorts of stuff, the fluoridation, all the other things. So what are the solutions? We have to sort of propagate those solutions to those issues. Otherwise, what happens to our third eye if it gets calcified and all that business? If that is the truth, if that is the truth, then we do this, right? Yeah, if it's a truth, and it depends which one you follow and which one is beneficial to your particular circumstance. But one thing's for sure, I quite like to have shelter at night. When it gets cold and it gets wet, I like to have somewhere over my head that I can be warm. That's my truth. And actually, I think for most people, we can all start to relate to these things. Yeah, good quality food, good quality water, a bit of shelter, a bit of warmth. I mean, isn't that really like a basic? Now, it's a little bit like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you ever hear about that? Yeah, it's a little bit like that, isn't it? He sort of said, you got to have your basic needs met. So, in our civilization, with all this technology and all this way of working together, surely we could just meet those 4 things right now. It can't be that hard. But we have these tremendous difficulties. So I'm sort of thinking, why? So moving on, anyway. Civilized needs. Now, if you look at kind of like the rise of civilization and everything like that, from my perspective, one of the things is, why do we start to come together in these groups? And from my perspective, I think it's because we drew mutual benefit. Some people say it's because we were warring folk and we had to defend ourselves and da-da-da. But actually, I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest it wasn't that. It was to do with trade, actually. That trade was what brought us together, that cooperativeness. Yeah? And I think that's one of the things that, why we do this sort of stuff. So we've got this thing like electricity we're sort of making. We have the ability now to travel the planet. That's fantastic. I mean, we used to be stuck in the village, right? For hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah. And now finally we can leave the village and we can travel halfway around the world on a backpacker excursion. Quite incredible, really. You know what I mean? Quite incredible stuff. And all because of this civilization thing. And we've got these, these boxes like this, and they can project light and they can display information. And where is it all kept? It's in this cloud and whatever it is. But it's incredible achievements, really, of the civilization. Yeah. And also we have things like cool music. Anyone up dancing last night? Yep. That's the thing about it. We need a group of people. And I used to play in a band, I'm a musician. And it's, I used to be completely aware it wasn't about me being on stage playing music. It was about me interacting with people as we were making music together, right? That includes the audience, because dancing is as much as playing, It's all interactive, right? So those are civilized needs. We came together, make life more interesting, more fun, right? But as well as that, we also have this tremendous internal spiritual power, spiritual essence. And I'm thinking about consciousness, and a lot of people, they kind of try and belittle what it is to be human, and belittle our consciousness. When I say that, I mean I'm a lover of nature, right? I love nature. I love the things around me. I love all that. That's really beautiful stuff. But also, isn't it amazing that we are inside of this consciousness that has such flexibility and power to do and create? Pretty much unlike any other thing that you can clearly sort of perceive in your environment. We're a step different from that. Now, whether people look at that as a kind of negative thing, look how we're messing up the environment, and belittle the brilliance of it, yeah. But at the same time, it has a tremendous depth, doesn't it? Emotional depth. We don't see that even in domesticated animals, which is probably the closest where we start to sort of feel these kind of more human connections that we do with each other. And yet we belittle each other. Strange, isn't it? Most amazing consciousnesses in the universe. So when I talk about these sort of transcendent needs, the things that aren't really real, we pass this pieces of paper around, and I'm doing a talk about the financial system on Monday for harmonic economy. But we pass these pieces of paper around as if they're and apply value to it, and we can actually give it value. We can actually make it real. We can actually create a system completely out of thin air that has no real tangible substance, and yet if it goes wrong, actually loads of people end up dying. That's crazy, isn't it? That's really crazy stuff when you think about how powerful our thoughts are. So, I don't want to belittle our consciousness. Our consciousness is what creates the reality. If you see a building full of government agents, what is it that gives them authority and power? Is our belief. I think we had many Freeman talks here today mentioning all this stuff about where does authority come from, and capping the divine. It's all in there, isn't it? Those buildings are built like majestic sort of stuff, and we feel overwhelmed, but it's because we feel overwhelmed with the majesty of it all that that gives them power. It gives the power and authority, the sense of power and authority.
They train children to feel that way.
Yes, training, education. Yeah. In fact, education is another one of those transient needs, but it borders into the reality, doesn't it? Actually, very, very important. We're going to talk about education in just a bit. So you're absolutely right. But the sense of spirituality, whether it's through, like the religious sense, or whether we find it through the more artistic form, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people who would generally agree there's a sense of something else here, something a little bit, what is it that makes us alive? And I don't like labelling it too much, because what happens is people have their own semantic idea about what a word means. If I say, like God, everyone will have their own idea about what God means, I think. But what I'm trying to do is get to the truth underneath all that. That's the label, isn't it? Yeah. I could say, the spiritual universe, energy. I could say the mystic law. Yeah. So that's the transient that I'm trying to get at, which is a very, very important part of being human, which I don't think is properly explored in our mainstream. Does anyone feel differently about that? Or it's almost like here's the set of religions that you can belong to, and that's the sphere of your spirituality when you grow up. And if it's anything outside of that, it might be mumbo jumbo, magic-y type stuff.
I think because there's only one rather than multiple, people confuse it for the reality, and thus they don't really have the concept that you're communicating now, which is that truth is relative and multiple.
Truth is relative and multiple, yeah.
Because of the variety, because it's been so monopolized on our minds, and like they're programming us through the day. Yeah, it's us on a spiritual level. It's ourselves. Sorry, shadow. But because of it, there just being one dominant system, which is this consumer capitalist sort of. We are consuming. We are consumers, and we are on the planet. And we believe in the physical world and materialism. Like this is all a belief system, but because we can't disidentify from the belief, we can't switch between like lenses. Let's look at it through this religion. Let's look at it through this religion. Let's look at it through that lens. So I think that's why people struggle to get to think about thinking and talk about talking and get to that meta level of thinking.
Yeah, I think Chris, by the way, I do a lot of work with Chris, and I think one of the things you say, Chris, is that the map is not the territory, and that's a very good way to sum it up. You're looking at a map. It's a book, right? It's a picture of something, and it helps you find the way, but it's not the way. It's not actually physically the grass, the trees, right? It's just it's a representation of that. And so what you have to do is, the only way for me, I think, is we have to find our own space and our own way with our own communities. That's why, although I'm sort of saying, this, that, and that, I'm not obliging anyone to follow. I'm just sort of suggesting that there is a way forward that doesn't involve, lots of pain and hardship, which would be quite good. Everyone's a winner. Everyone can be a winner. So basically, you could look at it like this, and I drew like these spheres out like that, and you could put a couple of labels on there as well. But then actually, I drew out these 12 spheres of human endeavour, and I want to look at that in a little bit detail in just a second. Primarily, what you can see is, things like food and water. They all come in over here. Health, more here, the more civilised needs, like all the technology stuff, the transport stuff, and over here, concepts of trading and bartering, value, everything like this. I didn't put religion in there. I didn't do any of that because my sense is not for me to say what that is. It's for everyone to find their own thing. Yep. Okay, why is money? Okay, yeah. Okay, it comes from a really interesting perception. I was sort of doing a lot of free man stuff, and I kind of suddenly came to the realisation that there is no difference between money and law at the moment. There is no difference. They are the same thing. So actually, this says money. This says finance and law because actually they're all in one. There is no, a bill of parliament is a bill. A bill that you get from a hotel is a bill, right? It's all to do with this financial structure and how the financial systems operate. Yeah. And what I was trying to get at is that we can utilise that system in its existence to redefine the direction of the civilization, you see, away from war towards peace, you see. So that's why I put all those in the transcendent needs, because it's not like if I make a computer, it's a computer and you can touch it, and you can whereas the financial system is you can't really point to it and say this is the thing here. It's a system that we empower with our own belief and concepts of it, and that belief and concept is changing. John with his get out debt free. Now loads and loads of people know more about how credit cards really work and are using that to zero out their credit cards. Yeah. So actually, the monetary system now takes on a whole new dynamic because that piece of information is available. You see, so it's not a fixed thing. That computer is a computer, and it's a computer, and it's a computer. And any way I will think about it and use about it, I can use it for different things, but it's a tangible object. That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Question: music, arts, and culture. Is that transcendent?
Well, actually, music, art, and culture comes right down into this side, which is moving towards the transcendent. Yeah. So to different degrees, right? And it's actually here between technology, all right? Then we've got the music, arts, and culture, and then we've got the networks and communities. Yeah. So networks and communities are when we're coming together to have parties and stuff like that. And then you have the music, but also sort of is a little bit on the transient side because it's like news, how we communicate, okay. So that comes into technology up here, which is more like the television set, the computer, the internet, yeah, as physical pieces of technology. And Yeah, so in a way, it's kind of difficult, isn't it? Because actually, a thing could comprise of any one of those 12 to any degree. And actually, when we get to this kind of mapping software that we're going to sort of be looking at in just a bit, I want to kind of see how we could use this as a kind of category to create a unique blueprint for an idea, and then match people up. That's kind of the idea, right? So, I'll tell you what, is there any more questions about those 12 spheres? Because we are going to come back to it in a little bit as well. And what I would like to do is, how are we doing for time? Yeah.
Just read out what's in every single cell.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so starting down here, I like to start in the red. We've got health here, health and healing. Yeah. We've got food and water. And here we've got shelter and environment. The idea was that there was kind of, I labelled them with two things to kind of sum up something. Because I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about an internal thing, kind of, and sometimes an external type thing. So it's the both in one, yeah? So shelter and environment, on the one hand, we're sheltering ourselves. On the other hand, the environment is an important, the ecosphere is a kind of shelter for the whole, if you know, yeah? So it's in these kind of broader kind of perspectives that I'm looking at these kind of terminologies. Which is why each thing's got a little bit of more of a definition behind it. But as we move up here, then we've got like energy, and away from like low-tech fire, which is more your primal needs, to high-tech electricity and some of those free energy devices that are not letting us have access to. That could be some of the more high-tech stuff. In transport and travel, could be everything from like your bicycle, because it's an invention, right? From your bicycle, horse, or whatever, to aeroplane, flying saucer, whatever we could create. Yeah. And then as we move into technologies and things like that, well, there's all sorts of things like new materials, The list goes on. Really, this is completely opposite the education and feeds it. That's the way I kind of see it as well. Then obviously arts, fun, media. I mean, for me, that's why we're here, kind of. I'm a musician, I love music, so, and that comes into sort of like this kind of edu-media as well, where it's like fun learning. Yeah?
Sorry, so each one is going across the circle and feeding into the other?
Put it this way, I tell you what, the thing I found about geometries here, I can stare at them and I can start to draw out my own sense of stuff. And that's why I really like it, because I'm just sort of trying to make connections between things rather than sort of say, this is it, your idea fits here. But yes and no. Yes and no, basically, because it depends. When I come with an idea, I had like a cool idea about, because we had networks, so Chris making his kind of network here, a free energy crew and an educational crew. That actually was a brilliant idea, just to operate that as a kind of principle, yeah? What we did is we developed some free energy technologies. We got the network, you got the education systems, so you can teach people how to make it all. So that kind of worked as a three, right? Well, we've got health and healing, yeah? So it depends on which way you trace it, really, because you could go we could create a square or a triangle. So, but yeah, health comes in here, then be up to here, health, trade, and transport. So, if you were trading medicinal herbs, whatever it was, it could be anything, So, but what I'm sort of suggesting is that any idea you place in the centre, and I'll draw that sphere towards me, I'll draw that one towards it a little bit, and that one just a fraction, and that in, and that creates a unique blueprint for your idea. Does that make sense? Yeah, and that can relate to somebody with a similar sort of idea, and then that means we can hook you up. Oh yeah, this person feels the same kind of way. And what I'm trying to get at is this idea of a goal-centered reality. The goal-centered reality was really something that's at the core of all this, because a lot of people give up their dreams. And I'm going to talk more about that on Monday when we talk about this monetary thing, because a lot of people give up their dreams because they feel they have to go and get a job. So I thought that was a bit of a shame, really, because life's quite precious, time's quite precious, and it's quite a valuable thing, right? That's where I'm seeing the value is in my time in my life, and so in a way, that whole I will talk about more about the goal-centered reality. But if you imagine your goal being here at the centre, that's where it should be. I think that's where your life should be at, really, and what you really feel in your heart you should be doing. And then everything else is like the direction of how it relates to other people, because that's the reaching out and connecting. That's kind of the idea, anyway. Yeah, but there is more to it to that. So I will move on just quickly, because actually I made a 3D model of it as well. It looks a little bit like this. That's more like spherical, looks a bit more funky. You can scroll around it in 3D space. We're getting there. And basically you can see I've got this 9 points around this circle. That's to do with Rhoden vortex mathematics and my harmonic economy, which I will talk about on Monday. So it kind of this whole thing, eventually I could see that it was starting to fit together as a whole shape, and I thought that was quite interesting. You know, the shape of things to come, they call it, isn't it? I don't know. But anyway, it's a kind of joke. So talking of shapes, you know, this shape here is another shape that you can find, and actually what's quite cool as well is that shape you saw before fits exactly into this. So all really good. Yeah, it does. Yeah, 12 spheres. Yeah, nice. yeah. So it was kind of like, it wasn't really planned, it was just starting to happen. So I just want to tell you back a little bit about my life. Is that I've been an educator of sense for quite some time. I used to run like digital music workshops, and that's how I've kind of made a lot of my money in music, sort of thing. And so I've done a lot in education. And it'd be quite interesting because I often get called up and sort of said, could you come in and run a workshop, because we've got Ofsted coming in and we want to, you know, make sure that we've got the good results. Yeah, so I come in and do my workshop, and Ofsted would go in and mark, oh yeah, brilliant stuff. Yeah, and the reason was because I was quite good at operating in a model of education that was not like that. And that is our current model of education. So what we have here is like this triangle, and at the top here we've got these ever so enlightened teachers, right? And I'm not saying teachers aren't enlightened, but that what I do feel is they've got a lot of a heavy workload, yeah? And that prevents them from being as creative sometimes as they'd like to be. It's a sad fact. And then here we have these students underneath. And what the idea is that actually then you can get these pieces of paper, and if you get these guys here to claim these pieces of paper by filling it in right, yeah, then actually, you know, this teacher looks really good, is one good thing, and these students look really good, and then the whole school looks good. But the problem is, it all relies on the information that's coming into here, this teacher here, and what they're allowed to teach, that defines the quality of what's coming out here, and ultimately the value of what these are here. Okay? And one of the things I'm sort of seeing in the mainstream education system is that it's kind of a little bit limited now. We're looking at a fracturing of knowledge. You know, there are more spheres of work in medicine, in everything, yeah? In science, in technology, in history, in archaeology, you name it. There's all sorts of new spheres of work that are opening up within the civilization. And this model really doesn't really make the most use of people's time. We spend a lot of time wasting it, really, in these, just going through this. Now you've got to spend, do your 5-year sentence doing this, and then another 2 years, and if you can handle that, they'll throw some more years at you. And the point is, at the end of it, I might remember a little bit from what I learned at school, but and how much would I apply to my actual life? And it's quite funny, because I've led, I feel, quite a good life. I'm quite happy with my life, right? But I don't think I've applied that much from the things I learned at school, other than how to have a laugh. So, in my having a laugh, this is what I would do. I'd actually, just create a space. Just create a circular space, and we'd get us all just jamming away and making a bit of music and things like that, or whatever. I used to work with disability, in the disability field quite a lot, so just making sure that everyone, I just wanted to make sure that everyone in the space could participate in this music making. So this is the real life experience. It's the applied learning. So when I was talking to Tanya quite a bit as well, who did the talk before about education, and I was like, this is my model of education. She's like, I completely agree with that, So one of the things when she talked about the Russian school, this is very similar, because what it is the students come and they have applied learning. Applied learning means it's in my environment. I'm going to learn how to cook lasagna today. I'm also going to learn how to make the pasta from scratch, not just like from the packet. Yeah? Now that could be applied learning, because that's something which is directly in my environment. If I'm learning about volcanoes, and I'm living in England, it might not be something I need to know about forever. I might never need to know that information. But if I'm living right underneath a volcano, it might be quite handy, you see? So you see how information is applicable, really, to your location, where you are, and what your passion is, really. What's my passion? If you feel happy about and passionate about what you're doing, and if it's connecting to your environment, that's going to be a good thing. That's going to move the civilization in the right direction. Does that make any sense? That's it. Yeah. Because we all know that we want to be more self-sufficient, more sustainable, right? Okay, building international connections. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. In fact, 100%. That's one thing that's great about the civilized needs, isn't it? That we have networks, and we've had one of those as the spheres, networks of communication. And that's just bang on, right, to my next idea. So I thought, I've got these spheres of endeavour. What I'd really like to do is create some kind of knowledge base, because I know I've spent a lot of time doing a lot of TV stuff, interviewing people, really listening to a lot of good ideas. And I thought, well, it's a shame there isn't one place you can go where you could just access all those ideas, try them out, and maybe even add to it as a body of knowledge, through your own experience. And so what I thought was, I'll just have this thing called the knowledge base, and I'll create this thing, and we can fill it up. But it wasn't until I met Chris actually it became a reality. So I just want to show you a little bit of this technology if I can. Where are we? Will that go over there, Chris? If I just drag it.
Is this something on the web?
Yes. So, well, it's kind of on the web, or is it on the web? That's a good question.
Isn't there something that does that? It's called like wiki learning
Aha.
or something.
There we are. Right, this is Chris's technology. Chris, do you want to just... Oh, yeah, nice one.
Yeah, I was going to get it full screen.
Yeah. My techie expert there. So basically, you can see it's the 12 spheres of endeavour that I made here, that we made up earlier. But Chris has developed this very interesting, what we call it, holonic mapping. Now, what's quite cool about this technology is that it kind of doesn't actually exist on the internet, in your, what you would say, your normal way. Do you know what I mean? It's not on, it's not like putting up a website or anything like this. This stuff actually exists in a new kind of technology, so it's actually embedded within its own kind of server code, which makes it quite cool, because everything's relative to where everything else is, so you can start to do some pretty cool stuff. And unless you're invited to the game, I call this the gamification of life, unless you're actually invited to the game, you won't know exactly what's going on. So this is just a mock-up that I've got at the moment, and I'll just say it's not complete, it's not finished, but what I had was I had these kind of geometries I was building. So look, I can go to this knowledge base here, and I can just double-click there. Okay, look, this section deals with the health and that's the health and healing one. See, I can zoom out of that. I can go into this one here. This is our water. See, and we've got all sorts of things from different methods and things like that, biodynamics, permaculture. And so basically here we have in here like the preparation techniques, food, raw food, cooked allergies, things like that. Here we'd have a sourcing thing. We'd have because we can link this to geographics. So actually we could get a shop. It'd be like a portal on the internet, and all you do is just enter your shop details or whatever. If you're selling, whatever products you are selling or whatever, and we can actually have a source here. There's things to look out for, big agriculture, latest news, whatever you wanted there. So actually you can see all these things here. It's all about plants, weeds, trees, vegetables. And you can actually at the moment you can move all these around, and each one of these you could go into, and it could all link here to embedded like video and all the information that you need. Then what we could do is we could take all of that off the internet and produce a DVD, and then just hand it out on mass to loads of people. So what it would be an empowerment tool. That's the way I see it. It's not the be-all and end-all, but those ideas there can be actually thought about, planned, and it all has an interactive, real-time element. So actually, we can create spaces on this software where we can start to create our own networks, right? So if I've got a school and you've got a school, we could set ourselves up, and then we could work on a project together. Yeah, completely using this. It's project planning. It's a little bit like mind mapping, but on a fractal basis. It keeps going and going and going. We can use colour, shape, background. So I've changed the background here to look like a certain thing.
So if I understood this right, you can actually almost create a society as part of this world.
Yes. And what we can do is we can create... Okay, so where are we going with all this? Where are we going with all this? Yes, at the moment we're in the phase of like education, right? So once you know what we can do and what's possible, and oh wow, we can do this, we can do that. And you can start to sort of work together. Remember, collaboration with people, finding those people. So what this does is this is one tool, but there's going to be a number of tools we're thinking of developing. And if you come to my harmonic economy talk on Monday, I can show you some more of the tools here that are more to do with like the money stuff and the business planning and But for now, this is all about knowledge. And this is about education. That's why I'm bringing this in here. And this could be a bunch of collaborators. Yeah, it could be have little interactive parts, and parts of it could be locked, in place, sort of thing. Yeah. So, any comments on that? We'd like to get a little bit of feedback. What do you think?
There's a website, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's called something like Wiki Learning, and you can access info on how to do all sorts of things. People just put up videos on how to make stuff. It's really good, but
Cool.
I don't remember its exact name.
Well, that's quite cool because I've got Wiki Sucker, which could suck all the wiki into information, turn it into a mind map, which you can then translate into this technology, and take it all offline and have it as a CD. So you can see the potential is amazing in some regard, because that's the whole point. What we're saying is you've got this internet with all this information, and what I want to do is find the real key beautiful stuff of all the cool people I've been talking to, and just lose all the disinformation. And this is the stuff that really works, and we can show you how it works, and we can show you all the cool stuff, and inspire a generation, basically. And yeah, it's not like, you know, it's a lifelong project, really, isn't it, to inspire people? Yeah.
I would just say get people away from Google.
Get people away from Google. Well, absolutely, yeah. We've got our new, because I mean, I don't know if you know about the story of the web, but in a way, it's what we call semantic web was the original idea, which meant it would be a lot more, you know, associative, really, to what you thought. Let's say, you know, oh, my house. Right? If I say my house and you say my house, it means two completely different things, yeah? But really, you should be, you know, with this sort of technology and sort of stuff, we can pretty much get to the point where we can recognise my house from your house, and if we can do that, then we can start to trade and actually create a new kind of monetary system as well. But we can get into that on Monday in a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to go on a little bit because that's our technology, and you can have a little play around with that. I'll leave that up on the screen in just a sec. How do I minimise that? Is that going back down? No. Oh yeah, here we are. So I just want to come back to the PowerPoint just for a bit, and I'm not far off now from being complete, so we can have a proper question and answer at the end. Okay, so let's think of it like this. From my perspective, yeah, I've had a lot of experience with these secret society type people, right? And I kind of been looking into that field, and I've had a few experiences, and you know, for me that is a kind of reality for me. Okay, that's my truth. Yeah? So I came to the idea, right? Okay, in a way, you've got these people who are controlling the money supply. How do we circumnavigate that? Because on the other hand, we've got all these cool people who've got this amazing technology. I mean, it's, you know, I mean the sort of things we could be doing right now. You know, it could be, you know, the planet. You know, you think about shrinking the space of the planet. You know, at the moment we think, oh, we've got to go on a plane and da-da-da. But if you didn't have to do that, if you could be anywhere, anytime, the space of the physical Earth becomes a completely different experience for you. Yeah. Your potential to have experiential space increases. You don't need roads. You know, what does that mean? My God, you don't need roads. You don't need a supermarket. You know, what does that mean? Well, we don't need oil-based cars. What does that mean? You know, we can't even begin to understand the implications of some of this technology that could potentially exist. But the problem is, obviously, a lot of people vested interest. They call it vested interest. So. How do we get around all that? Well, I was kind of coming up with a proposal, really, because I thought, well, you know, there's a few reasons for it. But if you think about this, you know, internet thing that we've got at the moment, here's the internet, right? And then out of that, inside of that, we kind of draw all this knowledge together, which we can call the intranet, which could be an educational knowledge base, right? The knowledge base, which kind of draws information from the internet, but also has its own kind of relationships building, like you said, networks, international schools, right? But let's say we have an innovation that is actually created through this education program. What happens is we create value, and the value actually can be condensed. So knowledge here of how to do something is very important. It's value. So once you've got the knowledge and the value comes in here, that means it becomes a commodity that can be traded just as much as money, if not more so than money, because we all know that, you know, how to do things is incredibly powerful. And if you are the only person who knows how to do something, you know, normally you go ahead and sell it, don't you? But if we twisted it a little bit, it wouldn't necessarily need to sort of trade on that basis. We could trade more openly. Yeah? So the knowledge being empowerment. And so actually, if you think about it, this idea of a civilization 2, that's what I'm looking at. True World Order, TWO, civilization 2. Okay? Yeah, you get it. So there's a little bit of a pun on words, because I do like to use these kind of puns just to help it be embedded a little bit. But actually what we want to do is we want to create in here these quality services. And why I say services is because services are actually, I think, far more sustainable. Far more sustainable. If you run a service correctly, you shouldn't have what they call a redundancy model. Which means, let's look at this. Let's say you're renting that projector off of me. You know, you're renting that projector off of me. My interest is making sure that projector never breaks, yeah, and will last a lifetime, so I don't have to come out ever and fix it, right? And that it was relatively good quality, okay? Let's say that's my objective, because I don't want to come out and have to keep fixing it. I want it to last, which is different to me selling you a crappy little product that's going to break within a year. It's a different model, right? So when I talk about service engineering, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, from the perspective of where we are right now, we could introduce all these technologies and we could massively reduce the cost of living, right? if we massively reduce the cost of living, no one's going to complain about that because we'd be better off. Okay, so there's no, well, you shouldn't charge for that, it's all free. No, because we need to invest in people. And what that is where our real value is. And if we can train people, and if we can get the knowledge and have competent people on the earth who can, I can't fix that camera, I can't fix that computer. Someone's going to have to, though. And actually, that's where the value is, isn't it? Those people who can do that sort of stuff, who can provide those sort of services, right? So that service engineering, we can create anything. We can fly off around the planet, and as long as my UFO never breaks and I don't have to call out the engineer, I'll be well happy. Yeah? Well, how much is it? £5 a month? Bargain. I'd do it. Would you? Give up your car? Yeah, of course. It's what I call the no-brainer. So basically, planetary service engineering is particularly applicable if we get this sort of education network together for food production techniques, because we can't have people starving anymore. We're going to move beyond that. The second part, new energy technologies. There's a variety of different new energy technologies out there that aren't using solar, that aren't using wind, that are actually using something far more advanced and could be far more useful and put into practice today. Transportation. We need to evolutionise the way we move around the planet. We're social beings. We've got this idea now, we've seen the planet from a distance. It's changed our perspective of the planet. Now we want to be explorers of the planet. And with our technological ability, we should be able to do that. So, last one here, high-tech manufacturing. Because there's low-tech manufacturing, like building houses out of straw and things like that, and I think we can all get down and do that, and communities and things like that. There might be some high-tech manufacturing which needs high-tech, yeah? It needs a group of skilled engineers and people who are extremely valuable to go ahead and do it. So, those are the sort of things that planetary engineering might be useful for, and we can actually draw that from a base of educational networks when we reinvent how we educate people, bring out the very best out of people, using all the accelerated learning techniques and everything that we've learned, from the talks before, and actually come together and create a better world, basically. Now, what are the options, okay? Because this is the other thing, yeah? Okay, it sounds like a bit of idealism, but I don't think it is. I think everything I've talked about here today is completely doable and completely possible. But the only things we've got to watch out for, really, is there's only 4 alternatives that I can see, yeah? One is that we naturally destroy ourselves because we just go too far. We just push the button too far. And actually, we get to the point where we can't roll back the environmental destruction, And that'd be a real shame because, what a waste, eh? What, millions of years of evolution, and then, oh, God, got to start with the, whatever it is, the cockroaches now. Again, next million years. Still. Anyway, self-destruction through war. Obviously, they're on the card, a war, that'll sort it out. No, it's not a war. That'll probably end up with natural destruction after all that, So, definitely don't want a war. Right, we're all agreed, right? Good. Okay, so what's the other thing? Peaceful revolt. Well, you've heard a lot about the Freeman stuff, how people are not paying their credit cards anymore. That's an option, isn't it? Just peacefully just wind them down. And the best way to do that, I think, is to just stop doing anything that they want you to do. In other words, just move away peacefully. Move away from the psychos. Don't let them get into your life, It's very difficult. It's very difficult, actually. Very, very difficult not to do something. It's more difficult than doing it. Oh, you've got to do your tax return. It's very difficult just saying, no, I don't have to do that. No, I'm not going to, yeah. But it's quite funny if you do. Anyway, so the last option now is transcend into a new world. And that is my preferred option. I call it party bonus because when I said goal-centered reality, remember I talked about that? And what I mean by goal-centered reality, I mean for every single individual human being, alien being, whoever, lizard, whatever you want to, whatever it is that rocks your boat, yeah? Every single one of those entities actually fulfilling their life with happiness, okay? And what that really means is, those people who have got this kind of megalomaniac kind of control, I'd love to explain to them that if they did it in a way which made everybody happy and made everybody love them, they would go on forever. It would go on forever because if I'm happy with you running the show and you want to run the show and you're doing a really good job, hey, I'm not bothered. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a musician. You go ahead and run the show. I'll go and make the music, yeah? And let's have a party. It's simple, right? So, if anyone out there knows some top Illuminati and they can put that idea to them, it might be worth it just before they blow up the planet. So, well, it is me, kind of, but that's why I'm making the video. Hi, guys. So, So do you have any objections? Don't you dare.
It doesn't fit their personality profile.
Does it fit their personality profile? That's a good...
They don't like
it doesn't.
They don't have any emotion for other people being...
They don't have any emotions. Yeah, okay, right, okay. Let's talk about emotions, because emotions... Look, I disagree. I've seen George Bush Sr. crying on stage because his little brother didn't get elected, or whatever it was. Jeb Bush, a cousin, what was Jeb Bush? Anyway, crying, full-out man crying on stage, yeah?
Acting.
Oh, no, it was tears. It was emotion. You should see the thing. If you ever check out George Bush Sr. crying, yeah, it's on YouTube anyway. But what I'm saying is, yeah, all those megalomaniac dudes, they have family and they feel for them, you know? Which means that they're not oblivious. They're just like, you know, like us. I think we're quite spiritually evolved here in this field. Maybe they should come down to our level and you know, receive some guidance. That's all. You know, I'm sure once they start to connect with people at a human level, it starts to change your perspective. It's only because they're living in this reality they're creating with this defense around them because they're so scared of what they've been doing.
A psychopath doesn't have empathy. It's just a permanent condition they're born with.
It could be. But don't worry, because what we could do is we can put them through the happiness machine that my friend Mike Emery has invented that uses positive orgone energy to shake those negative atoms out of their body and put them back into positive spin. All right. Which we thought would be an alternative to prison.
I reckon they should just be composted and recycled.
They could be composted, no, because we can't allow violence and we can't... That's the thought.
The earth would love them, digest them, and
I see what you're saying.
energy.
Well, the point is, it might happen anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because they might go for this. They might go for this peaceful revolt thing, and then we might transcend to a new world after. We don't know what order it's all going to have. We might have to go through as being naturally destroyed first. Yeah, I don't know.
Cement them in the bunkers.
But I think the easiest, in my experience with some of the guys on the fringes, yeah, is actually it's to do with their own spiritual perception of themselves more. And that's what I'm saying. Inside, I believe. That's why I say I believe in everyone here. I believe in everyone here. There is a gold. Everyone here exists for a reason. There isn't anyone here who's like not supposed to be here, right? The average, the negative thing is like a challenge for our own, patience, our own ability to overcome this stuff. I'm not saying I agree with what they're doing, yeah. But the point is, can I live in enough forgiveness to move on? If they can let go of their fear. Can I now live in forgiveness to move on? Because that's the only way it can move forward, really, in the current situation without, some sort of serious upset. Huh?
My last interruption.
Yeah. No, it's not an interruption. It's a good question.
The Michael Sarian angle is that they're the manifestation of our shadow. Unless we acknowledge the totality of ourselves, which includes some dark shit, they'll keep manifesting externally and manifesting really dark shit.
Okay, yeah. So they're the can I just say that? So they are the negative shadow of our own self. They're kind of that, and I might well agree with that as well. Actually, I'm not saying everyone here has to. Remember, going back to that truth thing, right? Yeah. But what I would say is, okay, if it's up to us to change, then it would be good to start. How about that? So, in other words, what does it start? It starts with us getting together and just saying, hey, I like to do this. Hey, I like to do it. Oh, good, right, yeah. And forming these little projects, yeah. And on my talk on Monday, I'd like to sort of put together an idea about how we could fund the whole thing, even. How about that? Because, at the end of the day, what's the only thing that's stopping us is this concept of money, isn't it? We can't afford to build free energy devices. We can't afford to do that. But maybe that's because I'm on my own. Once you get enough people together, say, yes, we can, then you can do anything.
Well, that sounds familiar.
Yes, we can! I do like him for saying that, yeah. And actually, I did have a whole thing about taking the piss out of him at the end. Yes, we can!
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, say it, yeah. So, anyway, yeah.
One of the things that this raises for me is that question of licensing and pathways. Okay, so a lot of young people that I've encountered in this field, and a lot of young people that I'm connected with, are working on the seam, and it's this concept of there's the off-grid side, and then there's the culture side, and I kind of feel like I'm somewhere in the middle.
So culture being...
being the built-up society,
Oh, right, yeah.
And then off-grid side. And so, for instance, I'm training to be a midwife. I'm working with the NHS, but I believe in the off-grid side of things. I believe in the grassroots side of things. But there are things that I work with from the other side. Thomas, for instance, works from the economics, studying mainstream mainstream economics, but also interested in what you're talking about. And how do we build those two worlds apart? How do we not exclude them both? And how do we work them together to understand the
Sure.
problem that's
Can I just repeat your question, just in a simple terms, to make sure I understand? Basically, there's lots of people, lots of different spheres of life, right? Some of them are more in a very what we would call here, anyway, a mainstream position. Is that right? Yeah. And some of them are in a more sort of like, should we say, eco position, sort of thing, if you like, for want of a better word. And how can we kind of, merge those realities in a way? Is that?
I guess what I'm saying is, do we just push out the licensing?
Licensing being.
The universities and state initiatives.
Oh. Okay, so when you go to university, okay, does anyone know about bonds? Everyone knows about bonds. When you go to university, you're really setting up your own bond. You're connecting a bond to your birth certificate. That's what's happening. So if you think about it in a kind of more esoteric terms, just take a step back from what's going on here. There's a bunch of human beings who've set up as a group of 12, to say we've got this body, and they give it a logo. That creates an entity. And then that entity offers to attach things to your birth certificate that say you're competent to do da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. When I said I think we should go back to applied learning would mean that you wouldn't need necessarily the piece of paper because you'd have the applied thing in front of you. Yeah. I built this building. I did this. I did that. I made this, and that would all be on record. You could create a record of that rather than say a record of someone else's achievements. As they judge you and say, okay, now we can release this piece of paper. I think like we say, economics, right, is a bubble, a sphere, right? And you might say, okay, health, healing, midwifery, it's a sphere. Where do they? But there's a point where they kind of meet because you get paid for the job or something like that. Yeah. So there's a kind of always a point where these spheres interact. Does anyone sort of see what I mean by that? Yeah. If I'm an individual here and I've got my skills and my talents, when they interact, I create something more grander, yeah? So then you'd call that a job if the economic sphere interacted with your midwifery, because you get paid then. So that'd be an economic aspect to what you do, yeah? So the point is, it's not about saying what you can't do, it's about saying, yes, you can. And I think, I'm not here to say to people how you should do stuff either, because that's not my role. But actually, to sort of say that I know for a fact when we do things together and when we cooperate together, we have more power, more potential, and I know that. So maybe there might be some sort of mutual benefit between the two skills. And maybe it might be that you could look at how midwifery works, refine it, improve the process. When I do my harmonic economy talk, it's all about vortex mathematics and vortex economy. So I hope you can come down because I think you'd like it. It's on Monday, yeah, sometime over in the barn. Does that sort of help that question a little bit? That I'm not, that actually these spheres are kind of, we create them. Oh, this is the eco and this is the non-eco. But actually, it's just a quality of standard performance. How well am I performing in relation to my social, my ethical, and my financial values? Yeah. Any other questions? No, we're doing quite well, aren't we, John? Really? 3 more minutes. Okay. Oh no, that's it. We're done. I think. Look, I could go on just to say, basically, I do have a website, harmoniceconomy.org at the moment. I've actually got civilization2.wordpress.com, but the two are linked. So harmoniceconomy.org. There's the spheres of endeavour. If you'd like, what I could do is, Chris, do you want to come up and have a little bit of a chat about your technology? Because Chris has got some fantastic technology, and I think what we should do is I should get off the stage, and if you can, because Chris, just do a quick demonstration maybe of some of the stuff that you've got. I can bring it back up online and I could show something. So is that all right with everyone, yeah? Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. My name is Colin Power. And if you're around on Monday, come and check out Harmonic Economy. And Chris, come on in.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.